Welcome to the debate. Our focus today is, well, it's a pretty significant strategic decision made by one of the world's most recognizable brands, Coca-Cola. We're talking about their 2025 Holidays Are Coming advertising campaign. And for the second year running, they've really sticked their most critical seasonal messaging on generative AI. It's definitely sparked some intense professional debate.
Right. And this isn't just, about one commercial. It's about a global corporation basically doubling down on a technology that is, let's face it, deeply controversial within the creative fields. The 2024 effort was already heavily scrutinized, and the company's decision to commit fully again for 2025 really forces a crucial conversation.
Exactly. So the central question we're examining is this. Does the undeniable efficiency and speed offered by generative AI justify its widespread adoption for major commercial campaigns, especially when that comes with, demonstrable technical flaws, aesthetic compromise, and, significant industry backlash over job displacement? I'll be arguing that this aggressive AI adoption is actually a necessary, even pioneering business move. It's driven by the need for operational speed, customization at scale, and, crucially, what seems to be acceptance by the mass consumer market.
And I'll maintain that, look, irrespective of the supposed efficiencies, the resulting poor aesthetic quality, the visible technical inconsistencies we still see, and the really serious ethical implications of eliminating human roles, well, they fundamentally undermine the value of the creative product, and I think ultimately the brand's long-term integrity.
The business case for this pivot, I believe, is now pretty undeniable and fully strategic. You look at what Chief Marketing Officer Manolo Arroyo said, a production process that historically required, a year of lead time, now it can be accomplished in around a month. That kind of shift allows Coca-Cola to react with just unprecedented agility. They're moving, as they say, at the speed of culture, which, is almost a necessity in today's rapid media environment. Last year's attempt, it drew criticism, particularly regarding the craftsmanship. But the company clearly learned from it. Executives are claiming the 2025 execution is 10 times better. And they're citing specific technical improvements. For instance, the famous Christmas truck wheels? Apparently, they now consistently turn rather than just kind of gliding unnaturally across the scene like before. And perhaps more importantly, the 2024 ads actually scored very highly among regular consumers. This really suggests the average person either didn't know or didn't care about how it was made. So for the company, this is a pioneering approach, and the message seems clear. The genius out of the bottle, and you're not going to put it back in.
Okay, I understand the corporate urgency to adapt, I do. But that genie out of the bottle statement, it just rings hollow for the thousands of human artists and designers whose jobs are now genuinely threatened. Animator Alex Hirsch, the creator of Gravity Falls, he suggested that executive line basically translates to your boss firing you on Christmas. The core issue here is that what's being marketed as efficiency is, aesthetically still a failure in many ways. Despite the claims of being 10 times better, the 2025 ad is still visibly compromised. The evidence of technical failures is still frankly rife. We see really quite severe glitchy inconsistencies in the new material. Those famous Coca-Cola trucks, they appear to momentarily change shape, sometimes even gaining or losing wheels between scenes. That's a major flaw known as temporal drift. And even in the close-up of Santa Claus, if you look closely, you see his fingers briefly distort into impossible shapes. It just looks visibly inauthentic. And when the production house boasts about using even fewer humans involved, 20 down from 50, for the production of one specific spot, they're validating every single ethical concern about displacement. This output, it really undermines Coca-Cola's decades-old slogan, "It's always the real thing." How can it be the real thing when it looks so unreal?
I see why you focus on the jobs aspect. And the optics of reducing human input are certainly problematic for the industry, I won't deny that. But let me give you maybe a different perspective on that efficiency. The scale this technology enables is something traditional methods simply cannot touch. CMO Arroyo highlighted that the campaign was both cheaper and speedier, allowing one studio, Silverside, to churn out something like 70,000 video clips for this campaign.
70,000?
Yeah, 70,000. That volume capacity allows them to create customized versions, a 90-second spot, 60-second cutdowns, bespoke scenes, and rapidly adapt them for around 140 countries. The insight here isn't just speed, it's also about risk mitigation and massive customization. That sheer volume lets them test, 70,000 variations and find the most resonant message, something traditional production simply cannot afford or execute in just 1 month. It's arguably a strategic hedge against a rapidly changing global consumer base.
That's an interesting point about scale, though I would probably frame the 70,000 clips quite differently. The fact that the studio had to generate, sift through, and then refine 70,000 video clips, relying on just 5 AI specialists to produce a finished 60-second product that still features glaring basic technical errors, well, that suggests to me that the overall process is actually incredibly inefficient from a quality control standpoint. Speed only magnifies flaws if the content itself is compromised. Furthermore, we really have to talk about the human cost beyond just the displacement of, say, senior roles. This AI adoption and the industry consolidation happening alongside it, it's actively causing junior roles, apprenticeships, internships, the vital entry points for young creative talent to just disappear from the advertising ecosystem. When you boast about efficiency, you are effectively discussing the active strangulation of the future talent pipeline.
I'm not entirely convinced by that line of reasoning, that the pipeline is gone. I mean, the total campaign staff, if you spread it across Coca-Cola, their agency WPP, and the 2 AI creative studios involved, was still around 100 people. Coca-Cola states this number is actually on par with the AI-free productions of the past. They argue that the core of this work is still human storytellers, with AI merely serving as an empowering tool to accelerate the execution. It's perhaps more of a shifting of creative label to different roles, like prompt engineering, specialized refinement, not necessarily an elimination of it altogether.
I just don't buy that it's merely a shift. The reduction in highly specialized human creative roles seems undeniable, especially when we look at that specific comparison from 50 humans down to 20 on a key production project. While the total number of people involved in the campaign management might be static, the stated goal of reducing the number of specialized artists confirms the displacement concern. The efficiency boast, particularly when coupled with the resulting visual quality, looks less like empowerment and much more like a cost-cutting measure disguised as innovation. The evidence really points towards replacing human artistry with high volume, but frankly low-quality algorithmic output.
Well, that focus on cost and speed brings us directly to the aesthetic outcome, doesn't it?
Exactly. The ad itself demonstrates AI's persistent technical shortcomings, especially that lack of narrative continuity and character consistency. Let's talk about temporal drift again. This is the AI basically struggling to maintain an object's consistency across sequential frames. It means that while the Coca-Cola truck is rolling along, the AI essentially forgets what the truck looked like just a second ago. And that's why the structure warps, the wheels sometimes vanish, and the movement feels oddly fluid, almost lacking genuine weight or physics. It looks more like a digitally rendered soup than a polished cinematic product. They clearly learned something from 2024. They tried to do realistic human faces, hit the uncanny valley really hard, and it looked genuinely creepy. So what did they do this year? They pivoted to these cuddly, slightly surreal animals. Polar bears, pandas, even sloths, which, okay, is a peculiar choice for a Christmas ad, but it gives them a visual out. It feels like a tactical surrender on realism, basically, just to manage the AI's current limitations.
That's a compelling argument regarding the defensive use of animals, perhaps. But have you considered the perspective of the artists who are actually involved in this process? Jason Zada, the founder of one of the AI studios, insists that producing this AI commercial involves, quote, a lot of human artistry. He says this starts with traditional creative steps, hand-drawn character designs, sketching, and world building, and then involves frame-by-frame touch-ups by a team of artists working to refine those initial 70,000 clips. AI, in this view, is maybe just a sophisticated brush or a different kind of camera. It's a technology that requires human guidance to succeed, and by accelerating the sort of mechanical process, it allows small teams to usher in what they are calling a renaissance of creativity, letting human talent focus more on conceptualization and refinement rather than, tedious rendering.
Yet, all that alleged human artistry still didn't prevent the very technical flaws we just outlined. If the core output still suffers from temporal drift, those trucks changing shape and wheel count, it really illustrates that acceleration doesn't equal polish. When critics describe the movement as strangely fluid and at once weightless and suspended in half slow motion, the result is jarring and distracting, regardless of how fast or cheaply you manage to make it. That visible inauthenticity, that's the real brand problem here.
I think you might be overemphasizing what are essentially, perhaps, minor, diminishing artifacts of a brand new technology. The very fact that they successfully transitioned away from those uncanny human faces and ensure that the truck wheels did consistently turn in 2025, well, that shows significant year-over-year improvement, doesn't it? This arguably validates the business decision to invest in generative AI again. It proves that the technology is rapidly maturing and becoming capable of delivering higher quality with greater speed. If the flaws are being rapidly ironed out year over year, then the efficiency argument really stands up quite well. Ultimately, Coca-Cola seems focused on the macro trend, and, well, they probably have to be. Market data is showing that 30% of connected TV commercials this year are already built or enhanced by generative AI, and that number is projected to rise to maybe 39% by 2026. The companies simply cannot afford to ignore this technological wave and risk falling behind competitors who are seizing this market advantage. And again, the consumer testing by System 1 showed those 2024 ads scored very highly among regular consumers. Our aesthetic outrage, frankly, risks being a bit of industry navel-gazing us, trying to protect old structures rather than embracing what might be inevitable change.
I come at it from a different angle regarding public perception, though. I think you're dismissed consumer concern far too easily. While testing might show overall positive recall, sure, a separate poll found that 46% of consumers are actively not okay with ads. That's nearly half. Furthermore, the visible lack of quality directly fundamentally conflicts with Coca-Cola's core brand promise. The foundational messaging of the entire campaign is built around that lyric, "'Tis the season, it's always the real thing." Viewers are actively mocking this slogan online because the content is so clearly generated by an algorithm that can't even maintain character consistency from one second to the next. This risks undermining decades of carefully built brand equity, which surely is worth far more than the short-term cost savings achieved by maybe replacing 50 specialized artists with 20.
And that is the tension we must weigh, the short-term cost-benefit versus the potentially long-term integrity of the brand. I still stand by the position that this is likely a necessary, transformational leap into the future of creativity and technology. The efficiencies gained allow for unparalleled speed, customization, and global scale capabilities that consumer testing seems to indicate are acceptable, if not entirely ignored by the majority audience. This might simply be the future of scaled content production, and Coca-Cola is choosing to be a leader rather than a laggard.
The debate really hinges on whether that leadership is admirable or whether it actually constitutes a significant aesthetic and ethical compromise. While the technology may be fast and offer a corporate advantage, the product as it stands is visibly compromised. It feels like an aesthetically inferior algorithmic output that distracts the viewer from the festive message by forcing them to confront the visual glitches and the inherent strangeness of it all.
The material we've looked at clearly highlights this fundamental tension in modern advertising. Whether the pursuit of maximum efficiency through generative AI is ultimately worth the sacrifice of traditional creative craftsmanship and, yes, the subsequent backlash from industry professionals.
Indeed. The evidence really leaves the listener to weigh those documented technical flaws, the strategic compromises made, and the valid ethical concerns against what is admittedly a compelling business case for speed, cost reduction, and unprecedented scale. It's a decision I think every creative industry is going to face or is already facing.